Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Today's sermon features two of our UUA staff, Reverend Carlton Elliott Smith and Connie Goodbread, who are going to share their message about justice. This theme goes along with our principles lesson. Today's principle is our sixth principle, that we, the Unitarian Universalist congregations, affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I hope you enjoyed their message this morning. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
If you would like to participate or comment on our service this morning, especially during the sharing of joys and sorrows, please use the chat feature in YouTube. We also invite you to send virtual waves and hugs to one another using parentheses around someone's name. After church, you're also invited into the Zoom room for coffee hour, small groups, and other meetings. Our RE program is also back in action on Sunday mornings. Please visit the UUCB RE Facebook page or look for the RE link in the chat to participate. We invite all of our youth and children to join in RE. The prelude prepares us for worship. If you have a chalice with you at home, please light it now and type "lighting the chalice" into the chat. We light this chalice, a symbol of our faith alive in this world, naming our vision of collective liberation and daring to remember each other into beloved community. Please join together in singing our opening hymn.
Let this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow a house of peace.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences they shall not divide us.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let all in this house seek truth. The scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where works of art and melodies consecrate the atmosphere.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be our house of
Let this be a
peace.
house of peace.
Let this be a house of prophecy. The vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of faith and love and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of our tender dreams.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
Let this be a house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
Be a house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
Let this be our house of peace.
We'd like to take a special moment in our service to thank those who served on our 2019-2020 board. They have certainly had their share of major decisions leading us through this pandemic so far. We thank you so much for your service. We'll start this time of appreciation with a moment with outgoing President Lee Schaefer, and then honor each of the other board members in turn. Thank you so much for your service, and next week we will celebrate our incoming board. 2 years ago, I was just beginning my ministry at our church, and Lee Schaefer had recently become board president. She had the challenge of incorporating a new minister, addressing past challenges, and preparing for new opportunities. Throughout her tenure, the board has adapted in some significant ways, focusing on the liability of the church, its building and grounds, and financial sustainability for the future. It's through her leadership that we now take multiple bids on any building project over $500, which has saved us money on several occasions. It's through her leadership that the board has addressed several liability issues and resolved them with grace. She has paved the way for future board leaders to carry that trusteeship with most reverence. Lee, what has been your favorite part about serving on the board?
I think my favorite part about serving on the board has been getting to know the board members and serving as a team with them. Everyone brought different perspectives to the table around different issues in the congregation, and it was really valuable to hear from the various folks and what their concerns were and what their perspectives were. And I feel like we really worked well together as a team. There was quite a bit of camaraderie and kinship, and I appreciated that a lot. I also like getting to know the business of the church more. That was very enlightening, studying the budget and learning best practices as far as, leadership responsibilities versus ministerial responsibilities. So it's been a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And during your time on the board, you have also continued serving as worship associate, as co-chair of small group ministries, and pitches in with gusto wherever you can. For all of the ways that you have served our church, Lee, we give thanks for you. What are you looking forward to now? Where do you see our church going?
I'm looking forward to rejoining the congregation with less responsibility, first and foremost. But I'm also really excited and looking forward to the future. We had an historical meeting this past weekend. We elected our very first African-American board president, and we also voted as a congregation to support the movement for Black Lives, lowercase m. And so I feel like those are two huge things that will help shape the coming months and years for the congregation. I am thrilled that our worship continues to grow online, and I know that when we come back and are in the same space together when the pandemic ends, that our church will be bigger than it ever was before, and that's exciting to think about also.
Church leaders often receive praise by way of other committees inviting capable leadership into their chairperson roles. But we know as Unitarian Universalists the importance of Sabbath, sabbaticals, and rest.
I'm really thankful for all the ways the congregation has worked with the board throughout these past 2 years. And I look forward to rejoining the congregation as a member with less responsibility.
We, the UU Church of Birmingham, officially release you from your duties as board president and affirm the rest you most deserve. We thank you for your service, and we give you our love and support and appreciation while you find community among us in a new way. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to serve. Thank you.
Our church is supported by those who call our church home, and by those who support our church's efforts to change our world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values: to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is People Against Neighborhood Industrial Contamination, also known as PANIC, a group committed to the community affected by the 35th Avenue Superfund contamination site. All proceeds to PANIC will go towards funding a survey of the residents of the area on how to best serve them. During this time of social distancing and online services, please know that church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate your continuing to pay your pledge or offer your donation by mailing a check to the church office or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your donation is for UUCB or for PANIC. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
As we enter our meditative space this morning, we lift up all of those who have been affected by Hurricane Sally this week. We continue to lift up those who are affected by the wildfires in California, affecting Oregon and so many other states. We also celebrate that Maxine DeCumos, Gil's mother, is now in a rehab facility working on her recovery. We continue to lift up all of these matters and so many more with our community this week. Please lift up our community as you go forth this week in love. Using the chat feature in YouTube, by speaking it aloud, or by hearing it on your heart, please share with us what is on your mind today. Today's spoken meditation was written by Reverend Dr. Marilyn Pagan Bakes, a UUCB minister in Chicago. As I offer this meditation, I invite you to remember that we are all creators and that the agent that binds our humanity together has been known over the centuries by many names. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Creator, we feel it. The atmosphere shifting, the very air we breathe carries the remnant of dreams, hope, possibilities turned to ash and blown carelessly, recklessly by the wind. It is contaminated, contagious, deadly. The atmosphere is shifting. Words of hate spilling out of the mouths of leaders, filling the ears of the desolate, loud and brazen over airways, from pulpits and in the streets. The disease of white supremacy metastasizing and showing up, ever more aggressive, threatening, and terminal. The atmosphere is shifting. It is choking the very life out of your people. Creator, can you feel it? We believe you can. We believe you do. The atmosphere is shifting. Your Holy Spirit is running free with power and fervor, awakening minds, touching hearts, inspiring imagination, strengthening our resolve, making connections, demanding our response and purposing our rage. The atmosphere is shifting. There is no back to normal. But with each breath, there is a way back to you, back to love, back to life. May we be open to the many new ways of being that creation is requiring of us. Amen and blessed be.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of a dark black night. Light of a dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
Will the children please come forward? Good morning. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a young woman who used her voice to create change. They called her Harlem's Little Blackbird. Her name was Florence Mills. She was born in 1896 and lived in a teeny tiny itsy bitsy house in Washington, D.C. A house so fragile it would shake even when a thunderstorm came. Mother said, "Don't fear," and she would sway back and forth to the rain's rhythm, singing the same spirituals that had carried her family through slavery's storms. Mother's voice wrapped Florence like a warm blanket, and Florence started singing too. The louder the thunder roared, the stronger she sang. Soon the storm faded to a damp drizzle, and then a drizzle, and then disappeared. Her voice had chased away the storm. Florence's voice had made the thunder go away, and it wasn't long before she was wondering what else could she do with her voice. And then she found out. On the playground at school, she would sing and dance, and her friends would stop and play just to listen. Whenever music would play, Florence's hands got to waving, her hips got to shaking, and her feet strutted and glided across the pavement. The cakewalk is what they called it. Florence was cakewalking and singing contests all over town. She won many medals. Word danced around Washington about the little girl with big talent. Florence was invited to perform at a fancy theater. The night before the show, she practiced her routine over and over. On the day of the show, when Florence and her friends arrived at the theater, nothing was what Florence had dreamed it would be. "They can't come in," the manager said. He pointed to the sign that read "Whites Only." No Negroes in the audience. Florence used her voice to stand up for what was right. "If they can't go in there, I'm staying out here," Florence said. And with her hands on her hips and her head held high, she walked away. He begged her to perform, and he even let her friends into the show. Less than 6 years later, her family moved to New York City. Florence and her sisters became a singing and dancing trio, the Mills Sisters. Reporters followed them everywhere, and there was one sister they adored the most, 16-year-old Florence. Come hear the woman who can sing like a bird. She flew from stage to stage and all over the country until she landed at New York's 63rd Street Music Hall. It was 1921, and Florence won the role in Shuffle Along. The sold-out show introduced jazz to white audiences. Every night, Florence gave her best, and night after night, she gave the audience a hand-clapping, foot-stomping good time. And in play after play, Florence continued to mesmerize crowds. And from Dover Street to Dixie, she was so good the cast was invited to London. Florence was excited to travel overseas. But not everyone welcomed her. When she boarded the ship, the white passengers refused to eat in the same dining room as Florence. When she arrived in London, many people threatened to boycott the show because they didn't want to see black performers on the stage. On opening night, Florence took a deep breath, opened her mouth, sang one note, then another and another. The audience was amazed. Each night when Florence stepped onto stage, the audience cheered before she even opened her mouth. If my voice can take me around the world, what else can it do? After Florence sailed back to Harlem, an important Broadway manager offered her a leading role. She would have been the first black woman to star in Ziegfeld Follies, but she turned it down. Instead, she used her voice in shows that gave unknown black singers and actors a chance to perform. Florence became the leading lady in Dixie to Broadway. Florence wanted to use her voice for more than entertainment. In the show Blackbirds, she sang, "I'm a little blackbird looking for a bluebird." It became her favorite song to perform, a cry for equal rights. The show was such a hit, she was invited to London again. This time she was welcomed. And after her performances, Florence disguised herself so no one would recognize her. And she went to hospitals to deliver flowers to patients, and she walked along the river giving money and food to beggars. Florence kept giving and dancing and singing until she was too exhausted to perform anymore. She became very ill and returned to Harlem to receive treatment from her doctor, but there was not much the doctor could do. And on November 1st, 1927, Florence's song came to an end. More than 150,000 mourners flooded the streets of Harlem to say goodbye. Letters, telegrams, and flowers were sent to the family from all over the world. People who had a lot and people who had little, politicians and entertainers, whites and blacks, gave tribute to Florence Mills. Even blackbirds came. Hundreds of them were seen hovering nearby. Her talent wasn't all that made Florence great. What made her a remarkable woman was that she used her fame and fortune to help others. If you were a young child playing on the streets of Harlem or sitting on the stoop of a brownstone, she might stop by and give you candy. If you were a guest at an NAACP fundraising event, you might hear Florence sing as one of the featured performers. These are the things that made her a beloved entertainer, her talent, yes, but mostly her generosity and her faith. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Please join me in singing our song.
And now let's sing our principal song together. One each person. is true. 5, all people get a vote. 6, build a just and peaceful world. 7, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too.
It wasn't the plan for me to preach today. We had planned a dialogical sermon between Reverend Carlton Elliott Smith and Connie Goodbread, 2 of our UUA staff members, around their ideas on justice. Their message was a beautiful one. And yet I also know that if I attended any church today that did not acknowledge the events of last Friday, I would feel like I was in the wrong place. So much of our lives hasn't been in the plan for months. My family and I were at an outdoor farmer's market, socially distanced, picking up my favorite macarons, when suddenly Josh showed me his phone. The news had just dropped that our champion, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, had passed away. May her memory be a blessing. Where were you when you heard the news? Josh tells me that the look on my face was one he hadn't seen in a long time. The look of fear. Fear that Roe v. Wade will finally be overturned. Fear that she will be replaced with a less diverse voice. Fear that the powers that be will use fear in their base to convince those in the middle to switch sides. Fear for those marginalized communities. Women, trans folk, people of color, the entire LGBTQ community, religious minorities, immigrant communities. Fear for people with a uterus. Fear of living in a world where some are celebrating the death of a Supreme Court justice so that they have an opportunity to impose their values on other people. The world truly is a scary place right now. Many of us have been holding on to the hope that Justice Ginsburg would be able to make it to January. That we had a hope of not returning our highest court to the values of the 1950s. A time when the world was segregated, when women had their place, and when children were to be seen but not heard. I have no doubt that the very last ounce of her energy was dedicated to this effort. Her death was not part of the plan. In the words of Jamie Lee Finch, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg deserved so much better than to die with the weight of our entire democracy on her shoulders. She deserved to truly rest at the end of a life well lived and job profoundly well done. She deserved so much better than this. Justice Ginsburg was our second woman justice and our first Jewish justice. She died on the night of Rosh Hashanah, which in the Jewish tradition makes her a tzaddik, a person of great righteousness. She deserved so much better. After all, look at what she did for us. United States versus Virginia, 1995. She wrote the majority opinion that women could not be excluded from a university solely on the basis of being a woman. She wrote, "Neither federal nor state government acts compatibly with equal protection when a law or official policy denies to women, simply because they are women, full citizenship, stature equal opportunity to aspire, achieve, participate, and contribute to society based on their individual talents and capabilities." In Olmsted versus LC, 1999, she championed the right of folks with disabilities, charging that we should look for integration of people into the community when the medical professionals believe it possible, instead of keeping people institutionalized. She famously dissented from the bench in Ledbetter v. Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, 2007, a case where the Supreme Court made it more challenging for employees to sue their employers based on wage discrimination due to gender. In Obergefell v. Hodges, 2015, she joined with the majority to overturn bans on same-sex marriage, allowing so many in our community to be entitled to equal rights and protections under the law. In Whole Woman's Health v. Hederstedt, 2016, she helped overturn a law making abortions difficult to obtain in Texas. Ginsburg said, "When a state severely limits access to safe and legal procedures, women in desperate circumstances may resort to unlicensed rogue practitioners, faute de mieux, at great risk to their health and safety." Justice Ginsburg has done her part for our society. She deserves to be honored. With our tears, our grief, however it manifests itself, our memories of the ways she has transformed our country and given voice to those who had no voice. Her death wasn't in the plan, which is why we need a new plan. We need some, not a lot, some Republican senators to vote to not replace her until after January 20th. Mitt Romney, Maine Senator Susan Collins, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley have all indicated they might be willing to wait. So send them emails. Ask them to wait. Encourage your friends in their states to do the same. Beg for these senators to follow the precedent set in 2016 that justices will not be replaced in election years. And don't count on Senator Susan Collins. We remember what happened with Kavanaugh. We need to hound our own senators with this message, and it's so easy to do. Get out your phone right now and text the letters NTFIEZ to the number 50409. ResistBot will ask you if you want to sign a letter called "No Confirmation for Supreme Court Until After Inauguration Day." And after a couple questions, it will deliver it for you. Do this. It is so easy. We must get out the vote. We need to support local candidates who support our values. We need to volunteer for phone banks. I'll post in the chat a link for you to learn to phone bank with UU the Vote that starts at noon today. We also need a volunteer who would be willing to coordinate church members to phone bank. That meeting is at 3 p.m. today. Please let me know if you can help. I know we are not all phone people, but in this pandemic, it is the safest possible activity we could do right now. And if you have extra funds, we need to donate. We need to donate to the challenger candidates of certain elected officials to the north of us. I know that you are tired of political ads. I know you are tired of the hate and bigotry. I am tired too. And also, our country, our very democracy, and all of the beautiful people within it have never been more threatened than they are right now. We only have 47 days to go until Election Day. We all need to help for just a little bit longer. Lastly, Justice Ginsburg would not want us to give up. Her death has reminded us that none of us are guaranteed another day. Please go vote early. Ensure your vote is counted. If you need a ride, call the church and we will figure it out. We want you to be counted. Ginsburg said, "I tell law students, if you are going to be a lawyer and just practice your profession, you have a skill very much like a plumber. But if you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something that makes life a little bit better for people less fortunate than you." Let us move outside ourselves, outside our congregation, to do something that makes life a little bit better for people less fortunate than we are. Let us be empowered to call for change. Let us be flexible when the plan demands flexibility. Let us evolve with the process to the point that we can start planning ahead instead of living in this reactivity constantly. We have to plan ahead. And let us try really hard not to be afraid, or at the very least to use our fear to compel us to action. In her memory, may we be trailblazers in this liminal season. May we use the tools afforded to us today in the midst of this pandemic. Let us remember, beloveds, that we are not alone, that you are a part of this beloved community. And no matter what happens, we are in this together. We will continue to fight for the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for all people. We will fight for those who have less than we do. We will fight for equality equity, and justice. May her memory be a revolution. May you feel surrounded in love and in the heart of our community until we are joyfully reunited in person. I love you all.
Please join us in our closing hymn using the words on your screen.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land as can be. Come, build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, live and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Oh, build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, live and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where build ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Oh, build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, live and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaths of righteousness stand the people. Oh, come, build a land like people we seek. Oh, build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, live and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
We extinguish this flame, a mere wisp of matter and process, almost as insubstantial as the thought of it. Yet, our civilization has harnessed the power of such a flame to drive and shape a new world. So may it be that with the power of our thoughts, in truth and in love, that we may drive and shape a new world.